Today, we're talking about things that we wish we knew back then that we know now, but on the personal side. To have everybody consistently seek exposure. That is part of our mission statement. What I know now that I wish I knew back then, the power of vulnerability. It is so powerful to be vulnerable. Through life, I've learned that you have to make yourself happy first. You can't make anyone else happy if you're not happy. My personal life is the importance of planning and scheduling. Movement with progress. I was moving all the time, but then I look up at the end of the day and like, what progress have I made today? Today, we're going through all of the lessons that we wish we knew. Let's get exposed. Welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show. I'm the man with the plan, Jeremy Mathis. I'm Joshua. I'm going to give you the game, Mathis, and welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show, where we expose you to the ideas, the strategies, the struggles, the failure, the people, and the experiences that have gotten us from zero to millions. We are picking up where we left off last week. If you missed last week's episode, we talked about things that we wish we knew now things that we wish we know now that we knew back then when we first started out in business. And today we're talking about things that we wish we knew back then that we know now, but on the personal side. And today we're going through all of the lessons that we wish we knew. Some of the things that at the beginning of our journey, we looked up and said, man, I wish I knew this. I wish I knew that. And we're talking about it today. Let's get exposed. Guys, as always, man, we would appreciate your support and your help. We want to continue to grow the show and expose more people. So if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on any of the podcast players, we would greatly appreciate if you hit that follow button and leave us a 5-star review. So please, guys, we appreciate the support. Did I mess up in the intro at the beginning? I was just about to correct you. And I was going to say, guys, what Jerm meant to say is we're going to talk about things we know now that we wish we knew back then in our personal life. Because you kind of stumbled there. But I think the people understand what it is that you're trying to say. Yes, that's what we're talking about. So we've been in business for over 13 years now. We've been humans now for almost 33 years. In a couple months, it'll be 33 years. And we're just going to reflect on our journey. And this has nothing to do with business. This has everything to do with our personal lives. And we just go and sit here and think about and just reflect on our journey, essentially. Yeah. So just like in the past couple of episodes, we came up with the topic, which was things that we know now and that we wish we knew then. Josh, he went his own way, I went my own way, and we're here to talk about it. Yeah. I'm going to let you jump off the porch, my guy. So for me, man, one thing that I know now that I wish I knew then back in my personal life is one, wait to have kids, and then who you have kids with matters. And I'm going to break that down. So when I say wait to have kids, it's just for me and where I am on my journey, I'm in wealth creation mode. And trying to create wealth and being a great dad is hard. It's hard to do both. I'm like most people say, guys, it's hard. You know, you want to grow your business. You have all these dreams, goals, and aspirations of growing your business and getting your business to a certain level. But then I know when you're working on that, when you're working on trying to create that reality for yourself on the business side, you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices in your personal life. So for me, that was one thing when I say in regards to what I meant when I say wait to have kids, but then also wait to have kids if you're broke. It's hard to be a parent when you're broke, man. And for me, when I first had Ava, we was broke. We was broke. We had no money. I couldn't take care of myself, let alone a child. And for me, like bringing her into this world and not being able to give her the best life that she deserves was something that was hard for me. And then not only affected me personally, it affected me in business. So that's when I say wait to have kids, that's what I was referring to. And then within that, I said who you have kids with matter. And guys, this is not a shot at the mother of my kids. Like, we're solid, we're good. It's just understanding and maturing and knowing that we're two different individuals, right? The way that she was raised and the way that I was raised was different. And the way that we're raised influences how we raise our kids. That's number one. And then two, her view on raising kids is completely different than my view on raising kids. Not saying that she's right or wrong and vice versa. Not saying I'm right or wrong, but it's hard to raise a kid with someone when you guys view the world differently and no one wants to compromise. That's great points. A lot of great points. That especially that last one. It's hard to raise kids when you have different views and no one wants to compromise. I definitely think, and preference is at the beginning. I'm a reference now. Guys, when Josh says wait to have kids, because that was my third point. I was gonna talk about that as well. We love our kids. Yes. We love our kids. If you guys know anything about us, we're fathers, we're Christians, and then first, husband second, fathers third, in that order. And for us, we love our kids, but we also have dreams and aspirations and goals. And when Josh is talking about waiting to have kids, I don't want to speak for him, but him and I we've dialogued on this multiple times. We've had several back and forth conversations about this. And then too, like you said, we love our kids, but it was one of the points that I made was like, I love my kids so much that I don't want to fail them. And I feel like if I'm raising them broke, I'm failing them, if I'm being real, because I can't afford them to get the best tutors and the teachers. I can't afford to make sure that they have swimming lessons. I can't afford, you think about it in the black community, right? The reason if we being real, a lot of black kids can't swim is because the parents can't afford to put them in swimming. So many kids drown, and that's just one example of what happens in community. If y'all are wondering why Josh came up with this swimming example, because this is Journey just started swimming lessons, and I've been putting in our family group chat her progression and what's going on, and I'm 32 and I still don't know how to swim. Yeah. And we're asking ourselves, like, why are we this old? Why us and most of our black friends, we don't know how to swim. Man, listen, my guy, I could get out of trouble now.
Oh, and you could get out of trouble, but can you swim?
Now. It's a big difference. So I'm not going out there to just have fun. Yeah, that's why Josh brought up the swimming example. But I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that point that you made. It's hard to raise, and it's hard to do anything when you're broke and you ain't got no money. Yeah. It's very, very difficult. For me, I lived it, right? When we first had Ava, I was broke. And shout out to Ava's mom, because she held it down and she helped with a lot of things early on. But it's hard for me to run the business the way that I need to if my mind is over here saying, like, man, I'm questioning myself as a man. I'm questioning myself as a father, So it's just like, it's hard to balance the two. So you said you not being able to provide how you wanted to at the onset for Ava because you didn't have a lot of money, that affected your confidence, it sounds like. Yep. And it affected your ability to run the business. Is that why you say that you wish you would have waited to have kids? It's one of the reasons, yeah. I just again, just man, being broke and having kids is not fun. It's just, money can solve a lot of problems. A lot of problems especially when it comes to kids, right? If they're struggling with something, if they're struggling with school, you can hire a tutor. If they can't swim, you can hire a swim instructor. If they, they want to start a new program, whether it's extracurricular activities, money can solve those problems. I'm so happy that we're having this conversation, because we always talk about, like, man, we wish we had somebody telling us this same thing when we were younger, because we both had kids in our early 20s, me mid 20s when I had Journey. And we always tell ourselves, nobody really told us, like, youngster, relax. Yeah. You got your whole life to have kids. Once you bring a kid into this world, that's somebody that you're responsible for and that you're thinking about for your entire lifetime. Yeah. This isn't something where it's cute for the Instagrams and all of that. Like, this is real life, and nobody really told us that. And we never put it into perspective, because a lot of my really, really successful friends, a lot of them, they waited to have kids. Yeah. They built their businesses. They were focused. They were all in on their businesses, and they waited. But it goes back to the point of this show, is exposure. Yeah. For us, when we was growing up, we was exposed to everyone around us having kids young, everyone around us struggling to really take care of their kids and provide their kids the best life that the kid, the best life possible for their kids, to all of our other friends, right? And then too, but exposure goes both ways. For us, it happened the way it was supposed to happen, but we got a friend, my homeboy Jacoby, he said, look, I saw what it was like to struggle, so I don't want to struggle. So he took the opposite route. But the point is just exposure. Yeah, no, for real, no, that's 100% facts. That's actually one of my points, and that I wanted to make and talk about today, which is something that I know now that I wish I knew back then in my personal life, was the power of exposure. I wish I understood the power of exposure early on, because if I did, I would have worked harder to make more money and to live a different life. I would have traveled the world earlier in my younger years so that I can get more exposure to different ideas, different perspectives, different experiences, and different things that can really shape me and who I am. If I had more exposure, what industry would I be in? as you guys heard us say in the episode that we shot about for real estate, real estate is great, but what happens if I got exposure to buying businesses or doing something different? What would our life be? Yes, I believe everything happens for a reason, but I also understand the power of exposure now more than ever. Like, being exposed truly helps you expand in your life. And the true premise and the basis of this show, why we do it, is we want you guys to constantly seek exposure every single day. That is part of our mission and our vision. We want you to constantly seek exposure. So if I knew that back then, how I knew it now, I would have got way more exposure.
No, that's a great point. And that was one of my wild card points. It's just the power of exposure, because, again, we've seen it in our own life, just what exposure has done for us. And by no means we're where we want to be, but we're not where we used to be. And last night, I was hanging with one of my friends, and we talked about that, right? Because he asked me, he was like, "Hey, bro," like, because he sent his kids to private school, and he said, "Hey, bro, like, what was that like for you guys?" And I said, "Bro, that was one of the greatest moments of exposure for our life, because we saw the other side of the tracks. Up until that point, we never saw the other side of the tracks, and when you get to see the other side of the tracks, it begins to mold you and shapes you differently. It begins to put a drive and a hunger in you to say, like, yo, you can live this life. All I got to do is work harder. All I got to do is make good relationships with people. Oh yeah, I'm about it."
I disagree that it put that drive in us. I think we always had the drive, but the exposure is the fuel that helps you drive way faster. I think for us, because we always just say it's shorties, I'm gonna get the McDonald's, I'm gonna get the hotels, but getting that exposure was like, oh wow, like, this is within my reach, it's right there. This is not as far out as I thought it was.
So no, great point. So I guess let me rephrase that. It's more so about saying that, like, if you've never been exposed to $1 million or $10 million or someone making that, it's hard for you to really visualize that and say that can be me. Right. For us, I remember, we wanted to McDonald's and things like that. But also at the same time, our level of exposure was making 6 figures a year. And we said, hey, boy, we could make 6 figures a year. I'm the man. But now when you see the other side of the tracks and you see somebody making 6 figures a month, 6 figures a week, you're like, oh, yeah. Like you said, it's the fuel. We always had the drive. Thank you for correcting me on that. It's the fuel.
So now that's one thing that, as we thought about, like I said, man, if we understood the power of actually putting action behind going to get exposure, where would our lives be right now? And I think I definitely believe that we're on a good trajectory. But again, guys, I'm sharing this point with you so that you guys could do what we envisioned when we first started this podcast show, which was and we still envision this, to have everybody consistently seek exposure every single day. That is part of our mission statement. Consistently seek exposure, guys.
For me, my second point, one thing that I know now that I wish I knew then, is peace is the priority. Peace is the priority. For every area of my life, I want peace. I want peace in my relationships. I want peace at home. I want peace in business. I want peace within myself. So for me, and for so long in our life, we lived a chaotic life, and chaos became our peace. And for me, I was like, it's hard to operate at your highest self and your highest being if you're always in a chaotic state. So for me, I want to, peace is the priority.
No, peace is priority. Help me understand how you got that understanding, or how you learned that, as far as peace being a priority.
Because of where I am currently in my life, me living in a chaotic state, me making chaos my peace, has not allowed me to live the life that I want to live. I'm not making the money I want to make. I'm not where I want to be when it comes to, like, my family dynamic. And it's just because I feel like a lot of that is based off the chaotic state that I operate in. So for me now, it's just, I don't want to operate in that chaotic state anymore, understanding that I am at my best and my highest self when I'm in a peaceful state. I'm at my best and my highest self when I'm reflecting and I can talk to myself and understand what's going on with me. And all of that comes just from peace.
So how do you practice that in your life, as far as, how did you learn that you're at your highest self when you are at peace, if you say that you haven't been able to do that as of yet?
It's just exposure. So shout out to Marcus Y. Rozier, a good buddy of ours. And he's always telling me and talking about, hey man, you got to prioritize think time. And for me, I I haven't been as consistent as I want with spending time with myself and auditing my thoughts. But the times I have done it, it has allowed me to learn me more. It has allowed me to figure out what I really want in my life. It has allowed me to say, like, yo, I'm really tired of living this life. And then to understand, like, I've gotten to a point in my life where I understand, like, man, like, I've been living in this chaotic state for so long, and that became my norm. But when I'm able to sit back and I'm able to think and analyze, like, why is my life this way? And then that's the root cause. It's the chaos.
Gotcha. That's deep. Yo, so you just been giving me real alley hoops, and you know your boy, I'm gonna windmill every single time.
That boy gonna miss the dunk.
That boy gonna miss the easy dunk. Now I ain't missing it, but one of the things that you've been doing this entire episode, I think we both have, but I think you've been doing an amazing job of it. It's just being vulnerable, which leads me to my second point of what I know now that I wish I knew back then is the power of vulnerability. It is so powerful to be vulnerable, right? And so many people don't understand the power of it. And for me, I truly understand the power of it because of our experiences and what we've been able to go through. Just now, recently, this morning, having a conversation with a buddy of ours, and like, man, we got a bad cash crunch. We brought way too many properties, too many investors backed out. We had to put up too much cash, getting vulnerable with him. His instant response was, oh, let me introduce you to my banker. Let me introduce you to my banker. I was like, oh. And just being vulnerable with him helped solve my problem. Instantly. This is a quick conversation, less than 5-minute conversation. And here I am, and me being vulnerable, and our problem gets solved. I also think about in the Bible, Jesus was vulnerable. In his toughest time, when most people in their toughest time, what do? They clam up, they don't tell nobody. Jesus in his toughest time became vulnerable. God, let this bitter cup pass from me. I don't want to do this. Boy, being vulnerable. You think about it. Just think about that picture right there. So for me, at the beginning of our journey, we wasn't as vulnerable as we are now because of our upbringing, because of our level of exposure at that time. But I wish back then we was a lot more vulnerable, because when you're vulnerable and you're able to execute and put action behind your requests, when you're vulnerable, you know how to ask for help. You know how to put the right things out there so that you can get the right things back. And learning that in business and in my personal life has been profound for me.
Yeah. No, that's a gem. That germ just dropped, and I hope you didn't miss it, and helping you guys understand that us being vulnerable has done so much good for our life. But question for you, what do you say to the person that says, man, I've been vulnerable before, I've shared things with people and they've used it to stab me in the back, or what do you say to that person?
That's a great question. I truly believe everything happens for a reason. If somebody stab you in the back, they ain't for you anyways. That's first and foremost. But one thing that I pray for, and I've learned this since I was a shorty, pray for discernment. Pray for discernment. I truly believe, and Ash calls me crazy every time I say this, I truly believe that none of us really have any personal business. Why? Because we all go through things. Everybody goes through something, good or bad. So do you really have personal business? But as far as the person that believes they have personal business and they don't want to get that vulnerable, pray for discernment. When you pray for discernment, God will put the right people in your life for you to open up to. And that's all he's done for us. I've learned that as a shorty and in church. You always heard the elders and the OGs pray for discernment, not knowing what it was, praying for it, and then understanding what it was a couple years back, and now understanding, okay, I gotta maneuver different around this person I can open up more to, this person that I probably can't tell them this much, but just pray for discernment and figure out who is that right person that you can open up to is what I would tell that person. I would also tell them, don't let one bad experience negatively affect your life. So often in life, things happen that are out of our control. That's out of your control. But everybody is not going to stab you in the back. Not everybody is a bad person. So that's what I would tell that person.
No, that's a good point. That's good. That's good feedback. So
I've been really enjoying this episode. Like, I just feel like it's clicking, it's moving, it's going.
Man, it's been really good. It's been really good, man, and I'm enjoying it. So I want to make sure we continue to give the people some game. So my third thing that I know now that I wish I knew back then when we first got started personally is prioritizing me. Prioritizing me, making Joshua the priority. So often, sometimes we say, or sometimes we know our greatest strength can be our greatest weakness. And for me, I'm a giver. That's, if you guys know me and Germ, y'all rock with us. Your boy's gonna give. That's just naturally who we are as people. That's who my mom is. That's just, it's in our blood. But I also understand now that that strength has also became a weakness for me. Meaning, I give so much to, I put myself behind, or I don't make myself a priority, and then I find myself in a place where, you know what I'm saying, I can't help myself. So for me, like, understanding that you got to prioritize yourself, understanding that you have to put yourself first, is a big thing for me. And as I thought about that point, I said, like, what really made me think about that point is, I've never had a point in my life where I could be selfish. Never had a point in my life where I could be selfish, where I said, hey, I could make money and just do something for me. And like, when you got, like, it was one point, because I really like reflected on this, it was one point early on, especially when we started making money, you start resenting certain things, you start resenting certain situations, because it's just like, man, I'm making all this money, but I can't enjoy it. I got to take care of my family. I got to do this. Before I go buy myself a pair of shoes, I'm thinking about, you know, the family, so on and so forth. But like, through life, I've learned that you have to make yourself happy first. You can't make anyone else happy if you're not happy, right? You got to be happy with who you are. And I think it's just in you. And from there, that's how you can, you know, spread happiness into the world.
That was good. It was good. You said that you learned that because of your experiences. And when we first started making money, you didn't have the opportunities that you saw me. You want to touch on that more to give people more insight behind when you say that?
It wasn't even just, it wasn't, I mean, now that you say that, like, I wasn't even thinking about you. It was just like, just my own personal, like, just me personally. But then too, to that point, when we first started making money, Jern was single. He didn't have no kids. He didn't have no family. So Jern was always traveling. Jern was going to see the homies. Jern was outside. And then for me, it was different. I had a family, so I had to make sure that home was taken care of. Any money I got, I had to put it into the house, or I had to put it into my family. And guys, I don't regret doing those things. As a man, I wanted to do those things. I'm happy to do those things, but I also understood that the suffering that took place within me, it killed a part of me. You know, so learning that, like now, like, I prioritize me. I'm gonna do what makes me happy. Right. And if I do what makes me happy, it allows me to be my happiest self. So I feel like to be your happiest self, it allows you to operate in your highest form.
So somebody right now that's struggling, that don't know how to prioritize themselves, I want us to go a little bit deeper. What does that look like to you personally? If you could give us some examples so that somebody can really see what that means to prioritize themselves.
It's just like always feeling like when somebody calls, you have to answer the phone. I don't always got to answer that. I don't feel like talking to you right now. The energy you probably going to give me, I don't want that to disturb the peaceful state that I'm in. Or if somebody calls, they need to borrow money. Even if you do have it, maybe you don't want to go through the hassle of trying to get that money back, or the hassle or the headache that will bring to the friendship, because you know they're not going to pay you back. And then it's going to be tense every time y'all together. I can keep going. I can keep going. I can keep going, you know?
And I got you.
Even at home with your family, like me and I was talking, you need your me time. You need that time to do the things that you want to do.
That's real. That me time is definitely real. And if you're a parent out there, if you got if you taking care of your whole family and you going through it, like Josh said, that me time is important. The only way you can pour into somebody is when your cup is full, not when it's empty. So prioritize that me time. That was a really good point. And my third and last final point that I want to talk about today, of what I know now that I wish I knew back then in my personal life, is the importance of planning and scheduling. And it ties perfectly into what Josh just said about prioritizing me. When you schedule things, you are able to really schedule your me time. You're able to schedule the things that you need to do to take care of yourself. You're able to be more effective and to get things done. Because I used to find myself all the time at the end of the day looking up like, dang, what have I accomplished today? And I only felt that way. I only feel that way when I don't plan out my weeks.
But when I plan out my weeks and I schedule it out, I'm very productive. I get things done. I'm moving and grooving and making things happen. And I have time for my family. And I have time for myself. So that's one thing that I wish I knew back then that I know now, was the power and the importance of planning and scheduling.
What made you come to that realization?
Because I started to ask myself, as we are going through this transition in our life, we have a lot of things going on. The podcast show, the wholesaling, fixing and flipping, buying rentals, education. We got a lot of things going on. And in order to do a lot of things, I heard Rob Dyrdek say this: you have to have a great team and you have to schedule out everything so that you could be efficient. And that clicked for me. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just try it. Because before it was just like, I'm running and gunning, or I'm getting things done. And then I heard Denzel say this on the ground one time: don't confuse movement with progress. I was moving all the time, but then I look up at the end of the day and like, what progress have I made today? So just seeing those two things, seeing Rob Dyrdek and Denzel talk about those two things, I started saying, you know what, I got a schedule. And I made it. In the beginning, this year was the first time I really did it consistently, right? So the month of January, I scheduled the entire week. I felt like a champion at the end of January. Let me do it in this February. I felt like a champion. I got lost a little bit in March, and then now I've been reflecting on my time, because I posted something when we talked about it in the episode about how my family is my priority right now. And the dude, his comments stabbed me in the heart. That boy say, bro, prioritize your time better. You can't make time for your family. So seeing the Rob Dyrdek, seeing the Denzel, and then seeing that comment was just like, bro, right. Bro is 100% right. When I plan and when I schedule things, everything moves, and it moves better for me. At the end of the day, I can look up and know what I got done because it's on my calendar. It's not on my to-do list. It's on my calendar. Some people like to-do lists. I like it on my calendar. That way I can set time, and that way I know, okay, for this hour and a half chunk, I'm doing this. And then if somebody texts me or call me, I'll call them in my break time after that. Like, I've really gotten that deep on my own personal calendar. So that's that was a long one, but that was it.
No, that was good. That was good. One thing that you said that I like is don't confuse movement with progress. And guys, I hope you guys didn't miss that point, because for so long, I think that has happened to us in our personal life and for business. We were just moving, but not making any progress. And guys, you gotta know the difference. You gotta be able to tell the difference between the two, and make the pivots that you need so that you can consistently be making progress.
Yeah, so, man, I really enjoyed this conversation. We wanted to have this conversation again because we know there are people out there that need to do more thought auditing. There are people out there that need more exposure to these type of conversations. And we want to continue to bring these authentic conversations, letting you guys know exactly what's happening in our life, how we growing, how we getting exposure. So I definitely enjoy this one. Any other parting words?
Guys, like I'm grateful for this conversation. And guys, the point I want to make was, understand that, guys, this is not the only three things that we know now that we wish we knew then. It was just, we want to make sure we give you guys good, concise episodes. We have way more points that we can make. And if you guys want a part 2 to this, just comment and let us know, because I know me personally, I have more points, and I'm pretty sure Jerem does as well. But man, I enjoyed this candid conversation, and I hope you guys got value from it. So just do us a favor and comment below and let us know, like, what was the biggest takeaway for you.
Yes, guys, we have our gentleman's agreement. We say gentleman's agreement because we believe you're going to do it. We don't know if you're doing it, but we believe you will, because you got so much value. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, let us know what you enjoyed, or things or different topics that you wanted to talk about. If you're listening on the podcast players like Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. Leave your boys a 5-star review, because we definitely appreciate it. Remember, exposure leads to expansion. Peace.
Expose and expand. Peace.